This is a 1000-watt Dynalite pack. It's called an M1000er, and it is their, or was their, kind of entry-level pack into their system. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm going to talk about what makes it kind of entry-level, and also, just share some opinions in terms of what I think of it. So in order to do this, I'm going to compare it to another Dynalite pack that I have, which is an M1000X. And right away you can see that this 1000X is a little bit more busy on the interface. It has more switches and sliders, and this M1000ER is a lot more basic. So let's kind of get into that really quickly and just talk about what some of the differences are, and whether that's of concern to you or not. I would say that used, I'm going to guess that both of these are probably around the same price. I know I got them at about that price point, and the reason that I bought this 1000ER wasn't necessarily for the pack, but it came with two heads, and the price of the two heads was favorable. The pack was thrown in, so that was just kind of a bonus. But when you look at this, the first thing you will see, or one thing you will see, is that there's no way to control the output of the modeling lights. So there's no sliders that you're going to see in the upper left hand and right hand corner. And these dimmer switches are apparent on this 1000X. They're kind of by the handle in the upper left hand and upper right hand corner, and that's all they let you do is increase or decrease the intensity of the halogen modeling light. For me, that is not a big deal because I rarely use a modeling light, and when I do, I'm using it to help to assist with focus, whether it's manual focus or autofocus. And in those cases, I prefer to have the modeling light set, all the way to full intensity. Um, when people shot with film and you didn't really know what you were going to get until the film got processed and or printed, having a modeling light was, important. People would use that to get a feel for where to position the light and the angle and so on and so forth. But obviously, with digital photography, if you're shooting these packs with digital photography, you can get everything set up and do many different iterations with just by looking at the results. So the other thing to notice is in the bottom left-hand corner, there is no on-off switch, and in this 1000X, you have the way to control the bulb with the white switch above the on-off, the bulb for the modeling light, and in the 1000ER, all of that is combined into one little red switch in the bottom. So the way it works is if you toggle the switch to the top, then the modeling light will be turned on. If you toggle the switch to the bottom, then the strobe pack is turned on, but not the modeling light. So either switching it to the top or to the bottom will allow you to fire the strobe. And if you leave it in the middle, in the neutral position, then the pack is turned off. So, on this pack, they gave you two buttons. On this, they just gave you one. While we're at the bottom, if you shift over to the right, you'll see that it takes that kind of funny sync port with three slots that is very similar to the 1000X. And, I've found that you can just use a regular household plug. You don't need to try to find the proprietary three-pronged Dynalite sync cable. So I just use the household plug to sync it to a Pocket Wizard, and that seems to work fine. If I don't want to use a wireless trigger, then I have slaves that have household plugs on those, and that's how I can trigger this by letting a flash fire off of a different pack or a different strobe. And that's the last difference that you're going to see here is that there's no built-in slave like you see here in the bottom right, that little red kind of dome. And that's to me odd. I'm surprised even on a budget entry level, I wouldn't say budget, but I would say entry level pack, that's surprising to me that you wouldn't find one of those. Otherwise, these two work exactly the same. They have the same power output, they have the same controls, um, the same methodology for controlling the power. So, if you're not familiar with these older packs, the way they work is even though it's 1,000 watt seconds of power, if you isolate the power to channel A and channel B, and you do that with the switch that's in the middle on the right, it's A colon B and A plus B. So A plus B, if you switch to the bottom, that means both the power from the A capacitors and the B capacitors gets combined into any of the four heads. So if you had A set to 500 and if you had B set to 500 and you had A plus B set, then any one of those four sockets could get 1,000 watts of power. If you have them isolated, then you're keeping 500 in A and 500 in B. And then from there, you can go down a stop from 500 to 250. Every time you cut the power in half, you lose a stop. If you double the power, you gain a stop. It's just like a stop of light. It's like on your camera, whether it's the f-stop for the aperture or whether it's if you're doubling time or cutting your ISO in half. It's all of those are a stop. With the power, it's roughly a stop, but it allows you to make adjustments pretty quickly. And once you're done making the adjustments for roughly what kind of power output you want from the pack with the white buttons under A and or B, then you can use the variator, which is a dial in the middle on the left, and that allows you to take yet another stop out, but in third increments. The variator works across both channel A and B. So if you have lights plugged into A and B and you take it down a third of a stop, both channel A and channel B are going to come down by a third of a stop. And you're not just limited to 500, 250, or 125 or, doubling it. You can have A plus B and you can have A set to 500 and B set to 250. And therefore, out of one of those sockets, you're going to get 750. Or if you have A and B combined and you have A set to 500 and B set to 500, and you have all four lights plugged in, then each light is going to get 250 watts. You just divide the total power by however many lights you have plugged in. I guess the last thing here, it should be obvious, but there's a test button in the bottom right corner that kind of glows when I think it glows or lights up when the pack is recharged. And in the bottom left-hand corner is a little switch that allows you to get an audio signal once the pack recharges. Some people like that, some people turn it off. So without the additional features that you would find on this more expensive pack, and I would say more expensive when it was new, like I said, now used, they're probably around the same price. It's a little bit smaller and it's a couple of pounds less in weight. So, this I think is around 10 pounds. This might be a little under 7 pounds. Both are small. Both were meant for and used in professional studios. The build quality on the 1000ER may be slightly less than on the 1000X. You can kind of just see, well, to me, I can look at it and see it, and I've picked them up and held them and used the switches and all that kind of good stuff. But they're both nice. And the strobes that come with these are quite nice. They have a built-in reflector. They're very small. And, I like, working with either one of these packs.